tonight, we'll look at the outbreak of violence in Denver that claimed the life of Broncos cornerback Darren Williams. And I'll talk to another victim of gunplay in the Mile High City. Plus, my front page panel's in the house to talk about everything from Bobby Knight and Duke Lacrosse to Dontrell and DUI. All that and more next on Quite Frankly. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Quite Frankly. As you know by now, every week I like to bring together some of the best and brightest minds in and outside the world of sports to talk about the hot topics of the day. I call it my front page panel. Joining my panel today is Eugene Napoleon, a sports agent and author of the book Dream Real. And also Ms. Sonjay DeCaris, is that the pronunciation? DeCaris, all right, yes. Make sure of that. A Baltimore radio talk show producer and personality on the Big Fat Morning Show on WERQ FM 92.3. And of course, Mr. Steve Malsberg, a conservative radio talk show host and a columnist for Newsmax.com. Please give my panel a round of applause, y'all. Let's go to my first item of the day. This year started off with violence as Darren Williams, cornerback for the Denver Broncos, was killed Monday morning after leaving a party. Williams was shot following a dispute outside a nightclub where he went to celebrate New Year's Eve and the birthday of Nuggets forward Kenyon Martin. My question is, with the potential for violence following them wherever they go, should pro athletes just avoid the limelight altogether? I'll start with you, Eugene.
I tell you, Steve, it's a shame. You know, when you think about a young man like that, with his whole life ahead of him, going out, you can't even go to a club anymore and have a good time. I'm pretty sure he didn't think about dying a few hours after going to a club just to have a good time during New Year's. I mean,
so should he avoid the limelight?
Well, I think for him personally, any professional athlete, you have a choice. When you go out there, you have to be very careful. Don't bring attention to yourself. Everybody know that they knew who he was. You can't bring excess attention to yourself when you're in that position.
But you're not saying he should avoid the limelight?
No, I'm not saying he should avoid the limelight.
That's what I was asking. What about you?
I don't think he should be a prisoner of his own success. You know what I mean? Like, these young kids, they work hard and then they party hard. So I believe that it was just a wrong timing for him. You know, I mean, because it wasn't a situation where he was like in the hood somewhere with some, you know, shady people. He was at Kenyon Martin's party. You know what I mean? It's a fellow celebrity, and he just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
What about you, Steve?
Who gets into these parties? You know, they shouldn't go anywhere. First of all, you got to use good judgment. I don't know anything about the club. I don't know if there was any violence there in the past. But these athletes have to use their head, black, white, green, no matter what. And don't go where there's a bunch of public. I mean, why can't they have a birthday party for one of the Denver Nuggets in a private place, somewhere where
some of these parties are private? And remember, he was shot inside the club. Outside. He was shot outside in a stretch Hummer, by the way, which isn't cheap.
It could have been a confrontation that took place in the club.
We don't know that.
Some of the people he was with. Right. I know, but that's what they're speculating. Don't go where there's you know, the public can congregate. Go celebrate and have party. Want to party hard? Do it in someone's home.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. As a former athlete myself, I can say this. You are given certain liberties. Obviously, as a professional athlete, you're given cards. We were given VIP cards. So that you can go to a party.
I get them too. I get them too.
Well, you the man. Go ahead. You can go, and those cards show you exactly where to go, what city you're in, depending on what club you're going to go to. In the back of the club, go through the little VIP section. But here's the problem that I feel. As a former athlete, you go to these parties. You bring attention to yourself. Unfortunately, it's not even so much you, the athlete. Sometimes it's the crew that you're hanging out with.
And I got to ask you both, Sonjay, both of y'all. It's not usually white athletes getting shot, at least not the ones we read about. Excuse me, that's not a question for Steve as much as this is a question for you two. I'll ask you first.
But I mean, it is a lot of jealousy and a lot of hate when you see when the locals or whoever is at that club, you know what I'm saying, see these athletes and they tend to draw. But I do feel the athletes need to be a little bit more aware of their surroundings. You know what I mean? Like, they have to be more conscious of that because people are constantly trying to hate.
Last word.
But then again, it's reflective of society. Black on black crime is a huge problem, whether they're athletes or not.
We might not like it, but he's not lying. He's not lying. I know it's uncomfortable sometimes, but he's telling the truth. He is, y'all. Come on now.
Well, he has a point to a certain extent. Again, you're a professional athlete. At the end of the day, you can't be trapped by your own success. I do agree with what Sanjay just said. But at the end of the day, listen now. Things happen in other places as well.
I want to move on to the next subject. It's a new year with new hope, new promise, and new resolutions. With that in mind, what is the most divisive issue in sports facing us as a society in 2007? Let's start with the ladies. Sonjay, go ahead.
I mean, everyone, this whole steroids thing, but me as a fan, I don't care about the steroids. You know what I mean? I think that there's bigger issues. I think that with the steroids, I think that the organizations out who they want to out when they want to out them. You mean there's more politics within that whole steroid issue than what we're seeing. We're only scratching at the surface.
Steve?
I think it is the steroid issue and the drug issue. I think, you know, now we know that there were 10 players that tested positive, and we may find out who they are. Well, why weren't they revealed? Why is the FBI?
But baseball, most of it was with baseball, and they set attendance records 3 years in a row. Clearly, people don't care that much.
I say let them poison themselves if they want, but you see that what it's the message it sends to the kids. That's the problem. How do we keep it out of the high schools and the colleges if you know you're going to do it in the pros, or you know you need it to get to the pros? So I think it's definitely drugs.
Eugene, real quick.
Racism. To me, racism. At the end of the day, you have a lot of athletes who go. I'll give you an example first. I'll use the Terrell Owens example.
Okay.
Terrell can say one thing, and even though sometimes he makes himself look bad, I'm not disputing that.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, another athlete can say the same exact thing, and he's dragged on the carpet for the same exact, you know,
but the flip side is another athlete could say something just as stupid, and he's black just like Terrell Owens. That doesn't mean that there's racism involved, because another athlete might not get a. Terrell Owens brings a lot of heat on himself.
He does.
That's all I'm saying. Let's move on to the next subject. When Bob Knight passed Dean Smith for the top spot on college basketball's all-time wins list Monday, Frank Sinatra's "My Way" blared from the arena speakers following the game. There's no debate that Knight did it his way through the years, but are we better off with his old-school coaching tactics, or do we need new school rules? Steve, I think this is a place to go.
I love Bobby Knight. I let him throw a chair, let him yell at the players, let him do what he wants. We need more coaches like that in college. Of course, in the pros we need them more, but you can never get away with that in the pros because the players will throw the chair back at the guy. Right. But we need more Bobby Knights. Let's bring discipline back. Let's bring, you know, teamwork back, and let's bring fear. The players have to fear the coach to an extent. I don't think they do anymore.
Your son could play for Bobby Knight.
Sure, anytime.
Really?
Absolutely.
And how do you feel about that, Eugene?
My son would not play for Bobby Knight.
Because?
I will say this. I like disciplinarians. I've always played for disciplinarian coaches who keep things in order, keep things in line. That's fine. But I think there is a certain point where you don't put your hands on a player. And for me personally, my son would not be, as a father, I wouldn't like that at all.
Okay.
But I think you know, you're involved in your son's life. You know what I'm saying? Some of these players may not have fathers, may not have that disciplinary person within their life, and he kicks them in their butt. You know what I mean? And I think that they appreciate that more than if it was a more lackadaisical
And Eugene,
coach.
his players, they get their
They love him.
education.
Yeah.
They don't get in trouble. Right. You don't hear about any rules violations or the NCAA coming down on this program for anything.
You just said the key, though, Steve. You don't hear about it. Doesn't mean it's not happening.
Do you know that it does?
You don't hear about it.
But do you know that it does? I don't know that it doesn't. Do you know that it does?
As a former blue chip All-American recruit, yeah, it does.
And Bobby Knight? What do you see the players that he has? Who does he have to pay? They lucky they should be paying him.
Well, they might be afraid of him.
They should be paying him. Some of them are not that great. He hasn't been, blessed with an abundance of All-Americans, Eugene. Wouldn't you say that?
I would say that. Well, especially at Texas Tech.
All right, I feel you.
Tech.
All right, Stephen A. Smith. Quite frankly, I'm in the house with my front page banner. Duke lacrosse, Sean Merriman, Pro Bowler on steroids. You didn't hear about that stuff. Actually, you did. You know you did. But we're going to be talking about that in a little bit more when we get back. Stephen A. in the house with my front page banner. I'll holler at you in a minute.
Hi, I'm Gary Sheffield with the Detroit Tigers, and you're watching Quite Frankly with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN 2.